Okay, so good morning, good afternoon. Welcome to LinkedIn Live, charting your voyage to success. I'm Steve Morris. I'm a professional EOS implementer, and I help business owners build better lives through building better businesses. So in this LinkedIn Live series, I'm talking with business owners who've been in the ring, hearing about their stories, what they've learned, and what they would want to do differently. My guest today is Ryan Schachtner. Ryan is a founder of I Must Win, where he is dedicated to simplifying the complex and awakening potential by empowering athletes with the tools that they need to be successful financially while they're playing sports and in life after sports. Ryan comes to this having been a former college baseball player and a major league prospect, and unfortunately he was forced into retirement by a career-ending shoulder injury. So we'll hear more about that. But he got out of that, found he didn't have a lot to work with, he says, with a 2.4 GPA and a learning disability. But he decided to use what he had and turn that around, made a game out of life, and has built one of the fastest growing financial planning firms in the Southeast, as well as writing an international best-selling personal finance book, The Foundation of Financial Excellence. So, Ryan, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much, Steve. I'm glad to be here.
Yeah, it's great to have you. So in the introduction, sort of talking about you had sounds like you had a great career in college playing baseball, but then you had this, as you said, this career-ending shoulder injury. So tell us a little bit about that and what that was like and what you went through with that.
Yeah, so starting at age 13, I was introduced to a couple of Atlanta Braves scouts, and so that kind of got me on the radar for being a pro prospect, and they tracked me all the way into high school and then into college. And so really I was focused 100% on just I was going to be a baseball player. And so the last game of my freshman year in college, and I had put together a pretty good season, and I was getting bigger, I was getting stronger, and we're playing at Illinois, Chicago. It was beautiful. It was spring baseball, so it was cold, but it was a blue sky. The skyline of Chicago was in the background. I pick up a baseball, go to warm up, and there was a pop. And my shoulder and arm just kind of fell to the side, and it was pretty nasty. I mean, it turned that, ugly shade of that purple yellow bruise almost immediately, and swelled up pretty good. And by the time I got into the doctor and they were able to do the surgery and everything, it just I couldn't come back to the level to where, I would be able to go to the next level into the, pro baseball. So that was it. I had to hang it up and I had to figure out what to do next.
That must have been, quite a shock to you, right? And to be able to, you've invested so much in building yourself up to a certain point, and you've got your, path set going forward from there. I mean, how did you feel at that time?
Well, I mean, you hinge in a lot of athletes, especially now that I talk to. I mean, once you get in, a certain group, you're treated a certain way as an athlete, right? And you're viewed as, you either go D1 or you go pro, and that all of a sudden becomes your focus and all you work on, right? So that, starting at 13, once I, started talking to the pro scout, and that was with the Braves, that was in the era with John Schmaltz and Tom Glavine and Greg Maddux when they were, winning the National League every year and going to the World Series, right? So that's where I thought I was going. And so everything was hinged on being able to be successful in that. And, part of it was my fault. Part of it was an undiagnosed at the time learning disability, but I just didn't focus on school because I didn't see that as relevant to where I was going. So when the shoulder injury happened, I mean, devastated, I mean, all those feelings. And if you're an, ex-athlete and, I know you've been around the sailing world when injuries there happen. I mean, you don't know what to do. And so lost and devastated and all those emotions were very relevant to me.
Right. So, but this is freshman year of college.
Yep.
Right. So, what happened from there? What did you find to sort of, turn yourself around and figure out what was going to be next?
Yeah, so I figured I didn't have much time to get my grade point average up, and really, I joke it's a 2 point. I say 2.4, but really it was a 2.39 that I just round up because 2.4 sounds better.
Oh my
And
God.
but I didn't have enough time to make get a 4.0 or any of that type of stuff so that I would look good on a resume. And so to me, the next logical step was, well, I've got to get an internship. And so growing up in Milwaukee, there was an internship that was in the top 10 in the nation. And so I thought, hey, this would be a great resume builder. I'm going to apply for this. And if I get it, great. Maybe they'll glance past my GPA and they'll see, oh, well, you were part of this great internship, and at least give me an interview. And so that's what I did. I applied, and luckily I got into the internship. And I just worked my butt off. I mean, I looked around myself. I was extremely intimidated because I'm with other kids that are, they were a lot smarter than me. Their futures were a lot brighter, right, at that point. And I just got in there and I said, well, the only thing I know how to do, and this is from athletics, is outwork you. And I'm just going to, work, and I'll do the stuff that nobody else wants to do. And I'm going to figure out how to be successful at this. And by the end of the summer, I was not just top 10 in my internship class locally, but top 10 in the country for the company that we represented. And so, it just showed to me, it proved to me that you didn't really need to have the book smarts in order to make yourself and be successful. And which is a lesson that I kept coming back to later on in life.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's an amazing story and sort of insight there too, about just sort of having that ability. You've got some skills, right, which is that you can work harder. And I see that in a lot of professional athletes that I've worked with in my career. I mean, there's dedication, right? The getting out there, the doing the practice, doing the routines, doing the training when you don't feel like it, when it sucks, when it's cold out, when it's raining, all of those sorts of things. If you can push through that, you build, this discipline, this inner strength. It sounds like, you had that, and you were able to then turn that around and to be able to apply that to, well, what's coming next in life.
Yeah,
I've got to figure this out, but I've got
absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think the biggest one is knowing how to lose. And especially if we take baseball, if you look at every 10 at bats, if you get a hit 3 out of 10 times, you're going to the Hall of Fame. And so built within, so 30% of the time you're having success, which means 70% of the time you're not. And so when I look back at the internship, a lot of these kids that I was paired up with, if they got told no or something bad happened, they were done for the day. And I was just like, all right, next. I mean, that's right. I'm looking for 3 out of 10, right? 3 out of 10, and I'm going to be good. And so that was already built in. So whatever sport, whether it's football or lacrosse, something bad's going to happen to you during a game, and you're just built to let it go and overcome it.
Yeah. Yeah, to have that learning mindset, and to sort of realize that, failure is actually the point where you actually learn where your boundaries are, learn how you can get better. And I've seen that as well. And I feel like the times when you go ahead and try to like do something in life, and if you like succeed the first time, great. But it's sort of like, well, you haven't actually been able to map out like where your boundaries are and where the things are that you can succeed at. So it certainly sounds like, baseball probably is maybe one of the better like mindset improving sports, right? If you're saying like 3 out of 10 is like, that's incredible.
Yeah. I think all sports does it. I don't think, there's an element of mental toughness that goes into every sport. Baseball for me is the perfect example though, because of that. 3 out of 10 times you're going to the Hall of Fame.
Exactly. Yeah. All right. So you've turned your life into this new direction. You've taken this internship and, excuse the pun, knocking the ball out of the ballpark with that.
Yeah.
And So that sort of carried you through college then, that internship and experience, and how did it go from there?
So after I graduated, I was living in Milwaukee, born and raised there, and I just said, this weather, that's enough. I'm done with it. So I
Yeah.
moved to Charlotte, North Carolina. I didn't know anybody, and I just saw opportunity. And I continued in the same business, which is the financial services. And I just started building my practice, and then eventually bringing on other advisors until we really grew into one of the larger firms in the Southeast. In 5 different states. Multiple advisors, and just doing a lot of really good stuff. And it was all that the competitiveness that I learned in sports that transitioned and translated into what you would call the real world, and
Mm-hmm.
allowed me to focus on having success in that aspect.
Yeah. I was interesting. I was in a business discussion yesterday, and we were actually talking. There was a number of athletes in the room, and having this discussion about sort of individual contributors or sort of individual athletes versus team sports, and building teams and the things that you get exposed to in that environment, and then how you sort of translate all of that into the business world. Where you have high performers, and then you're also wanting to build a high performing team, and sort of some of the aspects around that of how do you bring a sort of a diverse group of high performing people together and actually coalesce them into a functioning team. So did you, as you're building your business and bringing people in, were you sort of using some of your sports team experience and how you were choosing players to come onto your business team?
Yeah, 100%. And so I like to look at when the Tom Brady was still with the Patriots. They were going to the Super Bowl, and they had some injuries, and they had this line of just do your job. And so I took that mentality before it even became a mentality to my business and how I grew it. And so I knew that at some point we're going to function as a team, but I wanted to get the best players, and I just would let them do what they do best, and I'd figure out how to support them on the backside, when they're in the middle of their performance. And so it's funny because I'm listening to a book now that was done with Kobe Bryant and Michael Jordan's trainer, and he made the comment that that's what Phil Jackson and Coach K, that's really what they do best, is they bring in the talent, and they let whether it was Michael or Kobe do their thing, and then they'd figure out really how to just manage the personalities on the team and let the players excel in their given areas of expertise.
Yeah. There needs to be, I think, I mean, I've experienced that in my career, and sort of also working with clients. I mean, it's still, what I see is some discussion and coming together around, values and purpose, and why, this group of people are together. Because what I've seen not work is when, you have this group of high performing people and you're trying to sort of, spending too much time managing personalities and things, because we aren't sort of all aligned and on the same page about where we're going forward as a group. So have you experienced any of that in terms of how bringing a group of people together? And
I'd love to be able to tell you that I got it right 100% of the time right from the beginning, but no, I mean, absolutely, you get people that are going in a different direction, or they're not on the same page as the team, right? So if I'm on the on the baseball field, we're trying to win that game, we're trying to win our conference, and then go to the playoffs. If everybody's on the same page as that's their end goal, then you're willing to make sacrifices for each other and maybe give up some of the personal recognition. But there's times you get a player on there, or someone comes in the organization that they just don't fit in that same value system. And so you just, what I've learned from that is You hire slow, but you fire quick, and
Right.
you get rid of that person, because even if they're extremely talented, if they're not working with the team, you're not going to go where you want to go. I'd rather take someone that's a little bit less talented, but it's willing to play their role on the team, because then it's going to elevate everybody.
Yeah. No, we talk about that in EOS and the entrepreneurial operating system, and it's taken out of Jim Collins, Good to Great, this idea of, well, you need to get to right people, right seats in your organization. But
Yeah.
unfortunately, sometimes along the way, you find that you've got a wrong person in the right seat. I mean, they're great at their job. Maybe they're very productive, but they just aren't really fitting in with the culture of your organization or the culture of the team that you're trying to get to
Yeah.
move forward.
100%.
So I'd like to hear about your new initiative, A Must Win. That sounds very intriguing. So you want to tell us about what you're doing there?
Yeah, absolutely. So, I've spent over half my life in the financial services space. So, 21 or 22 years now, I've been in financial advising, financial planning, all that sort of stuff. And when we came up to, I was about to bring on an intern before COVID shut the world down. And he was a basketball player at UNC Charlotte. And he was super sharp guy. And when I started asking him about some just basic financial questions, he said that he didn't really have an answer, right? So I thought, hey, maybe he's just under pressure because this is an interview. So I took all the pressure on. You're getting a deal. I'm just got to find the right role for you. And he said, no, I'm telling you the truth. I don't know any of this. And so come to find out that they really weren't teaching anything in the athletic department. And that wasn't just common to it was common to athletic departments at every different level, in every different conference, and in every different league. I mean, they've been tasked with this, duty now to, especially with the name, image, and likeness, to be now financial educators and tell them how to build a brand and all this, when really their job is to run an athletic department. And so I was going to go in, I was going to do, a couple workshops for the players. And again, COVID shut the world down. And so I just started putting together a presentation, which ended up turning into a book. And through that process, got introduced to a number of, current and former professional athletes in, football, baseball, basketball. And two of them, Roy Williams from Oklahoma. Oklahoma's been in the news lately. But he came on, did the forward, and was very gracious there. Anthony Tolliver, who may be retiring from 14 years in the NBA, came on to do Tolliver's Takes, which is, the viewpoint from a pro perspective on the basics of finance, and really the value that an athlete brings, how to build a brand, and the value that an athlete brings to the workforce post athletic career. And so all that was going on. The book was going, really well. And then I just started doing talks and getting invited to talk to athletic departments and some pro teams, and that's just continued. So it was really this accident that turned into a business that, allowed me to get back in sports, but also help athletes and empower them with just really the education, because that's the only piece we don't go in to get clients. Somebody else is running my other my main financial planning business right now, and it's about education and empowerment, and really kind of offloading the burden that athletic departments have been thrust on them. So
sounds like you've really had a niche and a need at a good time.
It was all accident, luck, whatever you want to call it, because name, image, and likeness hit, and that was officially announced about the same week that my book launched, and then that hit it to bestseller. And just through a lot of the connections that I had made, all the athletes, their stories, despite the background that we come from, once we get into a certain kind of area, whether it's, a prospect to go to college and play sports to the pro prospect, we all walk a very similar journey. And so what I realized is that, hey, I can make this finance thing really easy to understand through the language of sports, and I can give them a game plan to win, and I can do a lot of really good things and help a lot of really good people. And it just wasn't, it wasn't being done on a big enough scale. So
Right.
yeah, I just got, it was, you got to say luck.
Yeah. So the need that you're really addressing there. So so these athletes have opportunity, right, to be able to earn money, earn good money, to be able to get themselves set for their careers, but they're not getting the education about all of that. So, could you talk a little bit about, have you seen stories, as you sort of were developing the talk and the book, what are some of the stories that, have come up as you've been doing that research and building it?
Yeah, I mean, it's really, one of my favorite stories is Shaquille O'Neal when he goes to Los Angeles. He went from Orlando to Los Angeles, and he's out there, and he got his first, it was something like 20 million deposited into his account, and he needed a car, so he goes into the Rolls Royce dealership, and he's wearing sweatpants and a sweatsuit, and the sales guy was kind of not paying him any attention, and so he got offended, as he should have been, and he decided to buy 3 cars. They're not cheap cars, in cash right then and there, and so just to prove the guy that he could afford it. And then he was out looking for a home, paid cash for a home. His accountant calls him and says, "Hey, you got to stop spending money. You only have $1 million left between now and the next paycheck." And so he goes, "What do you mean? I've got 12 million or something left." And the accountant's like, "No, you're in California now. Like half of that's gone. Like that goes to the tax man. You've got to somehow make $1 million stretch, a couple months for food and that sort of stuff." But so those are some of the fun stories that we use to get student athletes engaged, to teach them the basics of, hey, you have to pay taxes. What kind of taxes are there? What are the right things to be doing with your money? How to view saving money, just giving them the right perspective and game plan so that they can be successful and not make the same mistakes that, that I've made, that the majority of people that that we meet with have made.
Yeah.
And so it's about, like I said, it's about empowering them, but then also showing them that their value is more than just an athlete, and giving them reasons why it makes sense to pay attention in school, not just because, hey, you might get injured and it might fall apart, but hey, you've got these skills. Fortune 500 companies spend billions of dollars trying to figure out how to hire athletes, and not just professional, but student athletes. And so they wouldn't be spending that money if there wasn't some sort of uniqueness and value that the student athletes brought to the marketplace. And so being able to recognize that, and to not knowing at 18 what you want to do for the rest of your life, but being able to pay attention in a lot of different classes so that you have options whenever that post-athletic career happens.
Yeah. And I think that's the thing, is to make sure that at every opportunity you're doing whatever you can to maximize the options and the choices that you have going forward. And I'm a huge believer, for a long time, many years, I've been talking to anybody who'll listen about this concept of agency, right? Which is your feelings of agency, that you have choice in your life, that you can make decisions, that you can do things, that you can learn, right? And you can learn about new things and then continue to sort of maximize the opportunities, the choices that you have in front of you. And I think that's so important, because I do feel like people can get a little sort of, blinded to thinking, well, this, taking your identity, this is who I am, this is the only thing I can do, and I don't have choices. And I'm like, no, you can learn. And, sounds like with the education that you're doing, that you're opening that up as well.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. I mean, I think if there's if I could have learned that sooner, I mean, a must win is super cool to me, again, because of the impact we're making. But I'm talking to people that I watched playing sports, right? Like this is just cool to me. And so, but if I would have followed the steps that, whether it's society or the school system or whatever, if I would have just stayed in the box that they put me in, none of this would have happened. And so, I wish I would have learned that, what you just talked about, and you said it perfectly. I wish I would have learned that a lot sooner, because who knows what, we may not even be talking about financial illiteracy now. We might have already conquered that. And then it's something else that we're worried about. But yeah, I mean, you can accomplish whatever you want, and it may not even be going to college. College may not be the right path for you, and there's nothing wrong with that. But we are conditioned to follow these steps, and for better or worse, that's what we do. But the sooner you can learn that to just follow, it's okay to follow the beat of your own drum, and to think bigger and just go for it.
Yeah, find the things that you're interested in, but also keep that curiosity going. So, as you've been going to college campuses and doing your talk and things, what's the reception been like?
Well, it's been really good. It's better than I thought it would be. I didn't really have an idea of what it would be, but yeah, I mean, we're getting, we're being super creative in what we're coming to market with. We're getting new ideas all the time that we're implementing, because it's not just going and talking to these student athletes one time. It's how do they continue to hear the message so that it starts sinking in. Just like you don't go over a game plan, one time and then, let them loose for a couple days before the game starts. It's a continued review of the game plan. So how can we keep engaged? How can we provide this to all student athletes, on campus? And it's been really good, because it's I'm not, I'm not Einstein, right? So I talk like them. I keep it very simple. I make it easy to understand. I answer questions. It's not a lecture. We make it fun. And, I feel like, even though I'm 41, I feel like I'm back in my 20s, right? I'm reliving that last 3 years I didn't get as a college athlete. So
nice.
Yeah, it's been a blast.
Cool. So you say people are asking you questions. So what's the sort of most common question that you get, do you think?
Well, it's always, what should I invest in? And my simple answer to that is, I don't know it. I don't know enough about you, but I don't know what you've done from saving standpoint, your experience, what you understand. But so that's always the main one. I think the hot topic now is talking about taxes, especially when it relates to these student athletes with name, image, and likeness, right? Because we have Chick-fil-A is right around the corner from where we're at right now. When you do a name, image, and likeness deal, it's not like you're working for Chick-fil-A. You don't get a W-2 where the taxes are taken out and all that. You're viewed by, you're playing pro from a tax standpoint. You've elevated to that level. And the IRS says, no, you're a business entity. And so that comes with its own set of tax treatment. And you're going to get taxed whether you get, a paycheck from these sponsors or whether you get T-shirts or gear. There's a value to that, and you're going to be taxed on it. And so it's understanding how that's going to apply to you so that you don't get caught come tax time. All of a sudden you're owing a bunch of money and you don't know where to get it from. Because, Uncle Sam, he doesn't care. He doesn't care. He's going to come get his money regardless. So,
right. Well, it sounds like you're doing amazing work just with the education, just, making athletes aware of, what they're getting into, right? With, all of this good fortune and other things that are coming their way, but just sort of, having that open awareness as to, the situation, and then, giving them some education about paths forward, right? These different opportunities and to empower them to make the right choices. Sounds incredible.
Yeah, I appreciate it. Yeah, it's just giving them the knowledge so that they can make the best decision for themselves. And it's been fun. It's been impactful. And like I said, I feel like I'm reliving my youth again. So
awesome. Well, Ryan, if people listening, if they want to get in touch with you to find out more, how do they do that?
LinkedIn here, Ryan Schachtner. I'm on Instagram at amust.win, or just the website, www.amustwin.com.
Cool. Awesome. Well, please reach out to Ryan if you know some student athletes out there who need some education about their lives forward and to be on that sort of strong financial footing. It's incredibly important to keep on maximizing opportunities and not allow yourself to get boxed in. So awesome. Cool. Thank you very much, Ryan. It's great to hear your story.
Thank you. I loved it. I enjoyed it, Steve.
Everybody have a wonderful day. Thank you.